Me and my friend Jack decided to play a head-to-head campaign in Total War Attila, the Dawnless Days mod, or the Lord of the Rings mod. He was going to be playing the one and only Dark Lord Sauron of the forces of Mordor, and I was going to be holding the West as Gondor, and all free peoples of Middle-earth depended upon me.
For Gondor! For Gondor! For Gondor!
At the start of our campaign, you can see Gondor on the left and Mordor on the right. Mordor being a tight-knit fortress guarded by the mountain ranges and small choke points, but Gondor having equal advantage with the river line of Osgiliath and Cair-Andros, and I intended to use that to my advantage. By holding garrisons and strong armies at Osgiliath and Cair-Andros, I could prep my economy and my troop tiers for eventual pushes into Mordor. However, I anticipated Jack to make his own assaults from Minas Morgul and the Black Gate to the north. Boromir! You will hold Osgiliath! Boromir would have held Osgiliath.
Boromir was loyal to me!
Oh my god, it's Faramir. Ew, why does Faramir look like that, bro?
Some wizard pupil!
All was going to plan. Faramir holding Cair-Andros, Boromir holding Osgiliath, building their armies, and the economy in the back was building itself up as well. However, there was one thing I did not anticipate. The madness of the Steward. Sons of the Steward. Even in these dawnless days, Steward Denethor occasionally dines together with a large circle of advisors and nobles, exchanging tidings and counsel. Today much praise is spoken of the valor of Gondor's defenders, but soon a heated discussion ensues. Whom do we have to thank? Without a doubt, 'tis Boromir, I say. Fuck that Faramir guy. Who's the most valiant? None would best him in a duel. Nay, brute force alone is not suited to respond to life. Faramir has the mastery of lore, and his strategy proves more prudent in the end. All eyes turn to Denethor, expecting a decisive statement. He sets aside his plate of tomatoes and says, Who is Faramir?
Do not trouble me with Faramir. I know his uses and they are few.
Hearing of his father's disappointment in him, Faramir goes mad. Seeing the orcs to the north, he thinks to himself, finally a chance for Captain Faramir of Gondor to prove his quality. He sallies out to attack them. My initial plan for this battle was going to be to use the Ithilien Rangers' Vanguard deployment ability to gain an early and decisive strike against his cavalry. Limiting the mobility of his forces, I thought I could maybe kite my archers around and knock down a lot of his infantry forces before they even reached the front line. However, the archers did significantly less damage than I thought that they would. I was able to protect them from a charge with my cav. Once the front lines advanced, it was clear that I had overestimated the value of the sword militia and underestimated the value of his weak tier 1 troops. I was outmaneuvered and outnumbered. My archers got bogged down in close melee attacks, and Faramir and the Ithilien Rangers started to fall quite quickly. It was not looking good in this battle. I was starting to really consider a tactical retreat. Oh my god, Faramir! I think Faramir is going to die.
Good.
We managed to retreat. Only a handful of Ithilien Rangers, Faramir, and some cavalry managed to escape. This army was not looking good. Your fucking general's strong, bro.
Yeah.
When I saw that he took like 3 volleys and took no damage, I was like, yep, we're cooked. You could see him, you lied! Fuck! I'm cooked. I don't think I can win this at all, bro.
Do survive.
It doesn't because it's force march.
Oh my god. Oh my god. You got killed by the... Imagine your son getting killed by the whipped one.
Wait, what son? What are you talking about? This is Mordor's top general at the start of this campaign, Gothmog. Keep an eye on him, for he continues to be a constant thorn on our side the entire campaign long. Now, Boromir has caught wind of the news of his fallen brother at the hands of Gothmog. However, he has no time to grieve, for the city of Osgiliath will soon be under siege. Mordor hopes to snowball this momentum and take the river. We sally out some cav, make some early good strikes on the enemy to try and slow the advance, looking for any tactical advantage we possibly can. We need to inflict as many casualties as possible before getting locked up into prolonged melee with these troops. After achieving some good cycle charge and softening the enemy, the battle seems to be looking quite favorable, especially with our elite troops in the back lines and our militia up front hiding behind archers. Eventually, the front lines clash. Jack sending all of his troops into giant balls to try and push through my small outer defense. Me just trying to hold on as long as possible while my archers inflict as much damage as possible. I see that he's moved his general up, and this is a key opportunity for me to maybe bring him down. And it works. We bring down that orc filth. With no general, his army's soon behind to crumble. Yes, we've brought him down. Don't let them go. Run them all down.
Then take my settlement, little bro.
The surviving orcs of the Battle of Osgiliath flee and meet up with a new general, one of the 9 Nazguls, elite commanders of Mordor. Boromir, feeling confident, decides to run down the remaining armies with this fresh general. This could be a huge blow struck if we win this battle here. With a damaged and battered army, Jack has nothing but his Nazgul to really hold any sort of front line. This does not bode well for him. We've killed a Nazgul! My lord, we've killed the Nazgul! Boromir has avenged Faramir. He's dealt a damaging blow to the enemy here today. Even with this strategic blow, Boromir does not forget. His brother's killer is truly still alive. Revenge has not yet been achieved. At this point in the campaign, it was quite a stalemate. We had lost a battle to the north in the woods of Ithilien, losing Faramir. However, we successfully defended Osgiliath, ran down the running army, killed a Nazgul, but it wasn't over there yet. Another army was starting to gather in Minas Morgul, waiting for their next strike. Additional to this, we have our southern front that we haven't talked about yet. The Corsair pirates and eventually the Haradrim are making their move to the south now. Right now, the southern armies mostly consist of the Corsair pirates of Umbar. However, once Harad moves over and conquers these lands, there'll be a much more unified and stronger force, eventually being a very worthy foe and constant thorn in their side while we're trying to fight the Eastern Front. No, he's attacking my naval place, though. These Umbar pirate scum are easy to throw back into the ocean with these coastal assaults for now. Their armies are small and weak and unprepared. We wait for them on the beachhead. However, Imrahil's moving east to fill the gap from fallen Faramir, so we have to decide soon who our coastal warden's going to be as these armies grow larger with better quality troops. With victory over the pirates in the west, we don't have time to celebrate, due to the Mouth of Sauron moving up in the east. He's taken the forces from Minas Morgul, and it looks like he's going to assault Cair-Andros. There's no wall in this settlement, so I have to act fast. Boromir moves out from Osgiliath, and Imrahil charges forward from Cair-Andros to meet the enemy in the field. Upgrading these settlements, Cair-Andros and Osgiliath, are currently my top priority, so I can get walls so he is not able to assault them on the same turn. With this battle being a river crossing, my plan is to wait for the reinforcements from Cair-Andros' garrison to move up behind Boromir's main army, reinforcing us at the mouth of the river. Jack, having the much smaller army, gains the advantage from holding the mouth here. However, our Cav, Imrahil, and his coastal wardens are coming from behind, so give us easy access to do some hammer and anvil strikes or strike at his archers or general. This puts Jack in a very difficult position and forces him to charge across the river, exactly what we wanted. With his only viable strategy being charging up, we form a kill box here. Infantry pins down his infantry and my archers just open fire while the cavalry behind advances. And it works. He tries to push his general through but loses many of his elite bodyguard units. Additionally, every moment he delays, the garrison forces move up quicker to help reinforce the front line, and the cavalry moves up behind him to strike devastating blows on the back line. Won't be long until this army is fully routed and destroyed. With my army fully regrouped and the forces that charged across the river destroyed, the Mouth of Sauron is slain and his troops on the flank are quickly engulfed. The army breaks and flees, and with my own cavalry we run down every survivor, slaughtering them all. Oh, destroyed. Boromir has once again achieved victory, striking a decisive blow. But it's still not the man he's looking for. It's not Goth Mog. Word comes from Rohan, messengers. One of their villages has been attacked, and the leader of this war party is none other than Goth Mog. Boromir feels great fire building in his heart, anger and rage, ready to strike this one down. But what exactly happened, you might ask? Well, When Gothmog had slain Faramir and taken the great losses that he did, he had fled back to the Black Gate in Morannon. But here he had gathered a force and flanked around through the dead marshes in Amuhen. Instead of striking at Caer Andros or going around the river and making an assault from Minas Tirith, he decided to strike Rohan down so he could add stipulation to his economy by raiding their lands and sacking their villages. Additionally, he was hoping to soften them up and allow Isengard to move down so they could attack me from behind. Now, while Jack was having great success in Rohan, that meant two things to me. One, his economy must not be very strong if he's relying upon sacking and raiding to carry himself. Additionally, that means half of his forces are quite a few turns away in the north. I thought I had a perfect, ample opportunity to strike at Minas Morgul. However, I soon learned that one does not simply walk into Mordor.
Wow, shit. Seems like you're taking attrition.
Why
buddy,
am
not
I
me.
taking attrition? In a waste due to attrition in wastelands.
Does not simply walk into Mordor. It's a barren wasteland, riddled with fire and ash and dust. The very air you breathe is a poisonous fume.
Realizing that Mordor was considered wasteland terrain, this caused my troops to take any kind of attrition while moving through it and ending their turn here. This caused me to move Immerhill with a very small force over from Caer Andros and forced an early siege. We had only built up 2 siege towers and were greatly under-equipped for such a feat. Now I realize that this settlement doesn't look like Minas Morgul from the movies. Custom settlements are still in work. Now, without ample siege equipment, I decided that a frontal assault with a consolidated army supported by my archers and generals all together was my best bet. We couldn't spread out as we didn't have the equipment. There was one singular back path entrance that I thought about running cav through later, however, Jack guarded it well with pikemen. With him having equal numbers and us being forced through such tiny choke points and kill boxes, his archers, even though low tier, had great effect. Our archers, however, had to arch their shots up and over walls, so they weren't as effective. We had opened the gates, but the pathfinding wouldn't let me move through, so that was once again another front that I couldn't open. The battle slowly grinded on, and little by little my troops were whittled down, and we started to lose the advantage. It was not looking good for the forces of good here. My archers had fired all their ammo, my cannon fodder troops had died, and we were slowly but surely losing this fight. With my generals alive and a couple of my elites left, I decided to retreat away from the battle and attempt this when we had better forces. With the big defeat at Minas Morgul, we had to retreat back to our river line. Osgiliath and Caer Andros once again became our stronghold, mostly garrisoned by the garrison troops holding the cities. But unknown to me, until I had returned to Caer Andros, Jack had snuck almost an entire army around through the dead marshes. But they did take attrition moving through this terrain, so there was some positives. At this point, his strategy was to take this new army around the river and attack Caer Andros from the backside, while replenishing and recruiting new troops from Minas Morgul and launching a 2-front assault. Upon realizing what his plan was, I knew I had to divide and conquer. His Minas Morgul force had moved out preemptively and prematurely. It was small, but enough troops to turn the tide of battle against the Caer Andros garrison. I met the force before it made its way to Caer Andros in the field, with Boromir's very small force and just Immerhill alone. I was outnumbered, but he was outqualitied, and this allowed me to stop him from linking up these two forces at Caer Andros.
He's trying to retreat. Watch him run into.
I knew for this battle to go our way, the only chance we had was to use our elite general units, Boromir and Immerhill, to inflict great damage against his way under-tiered troops. While holding a front line, my archers could also unload their arrows and get many kills. However, this put our generals at great risk. He was quite decisive in continuing to rotate around in these tree lines until we got close enough so we couldn't fire from a distance, limiting the volleys we were able to put into him before he met our front lines. However, with Boromir on the front line, it gave us another melee unit to tie down and bog him down. Immerhill, being effective shock cavalry, could also take on infantry units as long as he wasn't in prolonged combat. The battle for the moment was going in our favor. Boromir was winning his flank decisively and my swordsmen were going toe-to-toe with his bodyguard. Imrahil had taken great losses, but was also getting many kills. The archers were doing a great job at wiping out the two-handed unshielded infantry, but Boromir was getting tied down by once again another unit. I was starting to get concerned about the losses that both my generals were taking. And by a hesitation of my micro with my archers, I end up paying the ultimate price. No, your Boromir died by friendly fire, you bro.
Thank the gods have blessed me, the stupid man swine.
We had won that battle, but at what cost? Boromir not only died, but so did Imrahil. I didn't even realize this until the battle had ended, that I'd lost both of them. I'm down all 3 of my elite generals, and only Denethor remains. The campaign was starting to look very grim for the men of the West at this point. But at least we had beaten back the army that was going to take Caer Andros, or so I thought. Once Jack realized that he could no longer assault Caer Andros without it being almost a guaranteed defeat, he decided to turn his attention to the north with his battered army from the Dead Marsh attrition. He decided Rohan was going to burn. But destruction and pillaging wasn't his only goal with this northern campaign. He actually occupied the territory that I later discover, and he's using it to replenish so he can continue this northern assault behind my lines. Now, my plan to counteract this and relieve the pressure off of Rohan was going to be to send a reasonably sized force up there, but not too large, to destroy this incursion army and then pull them back to once again Caer Andros and Osgiliath. However, Jack had other plans. He launched 2 more armies at me, one from the north and one from Minas Morgul, all while also moving up the Rohan incursion army, although it was quite beaten and battered, so it wasn't quite a full army. Upon further inspection, I recognized somebody special there. One of those armies was our old pal Goth Mog, which means this army that he had here wasn't actually a full army. It had come from the secondary Rohan incursion army. And he actually, at the end turn, linked his 2 Rohan incursion armies together and deleted all the beaten up battered troops, leaving us with only 2 stack armies. I knew that even though this was only 2 stack armies, I still couldn't beat him by sitting back in Caer Andros, so I had to do something strategic. Caer Andros was the weaker garrison out of troops recruited. However, the entire time I fought field battles with Jack, I was upgrading both cities of Osgiliath and Caer Andros, giving them bigger garrisons stationed in the town itself. I also had just finished the technology giving my militia troops an upgrade on all their stats. So what I did was I recruited a second general, sat him at the southern ford of Caer Andros, and sat my other general at the northern ford. I might not have been able to beat him in an unfortified city assault, but I could beat him in a river battle, and he knew that. In doing this, I also make it so he either has to consolidate both his armies on one side of the river to push through the river battle, or fight 2 separate river battles in which my garrison will reinforce either or army. So he was stuck. He either consolidated or he retreated. He chose to retreat, and in doing so, we were able to ambush him with 3 small armies on 1 large army, and we actually destroyed him, causing his Rohan incursion army to flee back to Rohan once more and alleviate any pressure on the city of Caer Andros. See, I thought that was the end of it. I destroyed this army and I had just bought myself more time to sit back and wait. However, little did I know, that second army of Goth Mog didn't actually disband. It was hiding in the trees, and the Nazgul had no intentions of fleeing back. I just left Caer Andros wide open. Jack, without skipping a heartbeat, seized the opportunity to attack Caer Andros with both his armies at once. It was going to be a tough fight for both of us, but possibly the entire fate of Gondor rested on this situation. If I didn't stop him, or at least inflict a lot of damage, he could maybe take Minas Tirith. We took up a defensive position in the main center of the city, holding the 3 choke points leading into the city with archers on the walls where we could strategically fire upon units as they advanced and while they attacked these choke points. This was our only chance at defeating this much larger force than ours. Though he had the numbers, we had a few quality units mixed in with our relatively decent militia with their new upgrades. However, the battle was still not looking very good or near our favor. He had elite cavalry as well, but with the walls, they were negated to a significant amount. As long as we didn't leave opportunity for him to cycle charge, we might be able to win this. We held the front lines firmly as best we could, but with so many troops pushing, holes started to open up, and in these holes he was able to squeak through some cavalry and some infantry behind my troops. This was bad. This put me in a hammer anvil situation with some of this cav, but he was losing significant numbers with the pull through tactic that he was using. While the front line was folding, I noticed something. A unit attacking my archers in the back. Upon further investigation, I realized it was one of the 9 Nazgul. Here, I could cut another one down. Another elite general could be lost for him. He realized that I was closing in with 2 spearman units forming a box. It looked like the battle might be over and turned in my favor with the loss of a general like this. Some way, somehow though, the game was on his side. He pulls through upon taking heavy losses, but the Nazgul himself manages to live. Super unfortunate for our forces. With the missed opportunity to cut down that significant general, the Nazgul, victory slips away from us. Our men are surrounded as more and more holes open up. They fight to the bitter end, but they die. The city of Caer falls. The forces of Mordor have taken it, but not without great losses. After losing Caer, Jack decides to consolidate his forces, leaving Gothmog with a beaten and battered force to hold the city. My 3 small armies had sallied out and destroyed his army in the forest of Ithilien, turn around and siege the settlement for a turn, while I recruit some fresh troops at the capital Minas Tirith. We will assault this and finally slay the bastard Gothmog that has been such a thorn in our side. We will take back our city Caer and slay these orcs here. This battle is very much in our favor at the start. We have the range advantage, the quality advantage, and the numbers advantage. The only thing he has is a few units of cav that he's going to keep on the outside of the city and harass us. We decide to pay them very little mind and advance towards the city, protecting the archers and getting in to assault from all flanks. Once we make it to the inner city, he's boxed up pretty tight and squared, holding the same choke points I held against him. Where holding these choke points went in our advantage, these choke points work against him due to the range superiority that we currently possess compared to him. His archers are not very good or very plentiful. We shoot him down while charging him with superior infantry, and slowly but surely we whittle away at his defenses. The same problems that ailed us in holding the city now turn against Jack. Too many forces pushing at too many areas. Holes open up in your lines. You can't contain the flood of infantry and cavalry that are now pushing through. Your flanks are exposed and you're charged in the rear. Troops die fast and waver even quicker. It looks like the battle is turning our favor and decisively. He's not going to have enough men to hold. We line our elite Swan Knights up and cycle charge Gothmog in the rear, destroying his bodyguard units and ending his life quickly. With one final charge to the rear, the battle is over. The enemy has been destroyed and beaten. We've avenged the sons of Gondor. Gothmog lies dead. With Caer back in our hands and 2 armies defeated, Jack lies at a stagnant standstill. No way to further snowball his advance into our lands. For the sake of time, I'm going to break up the video here. It's a pretty good natural ending point. The video is starting to get into quite a long run time, and I don't want to cut away too much. That's going to be entertainment for you guys to watch. With that being said, I'm going to edit down and put out the next part of the video relatively soon. So if you're enjoying it so far, continue to like, subscribe, and enjoy. Next part will be out very soon.